How Do We Learn by Christian Izzard. Bef- so, what is learning? Before we get into how we learn, we must first define what learning is. The Oxford Dictionary describes it as a person's ability to gain or acquire knowledge of a skill in something by study, experience, or being taught. It can generally be accepted that humans are the smartest creatures on this planet. The sheer size of our brain alone, when compared to the size of our bodies, gives us an advantage against other species. To the left, I have a picture of different mammals and the size of their brains. On the top, a human brain. Next to it, you can see a camel and some other mammals. As you can see, the human brain is a lot bigger than the camel brain, even though the camel is a lot bigger than the human. Intro into psychology. So, how does the brain work? The brain is the most complex organ inside of the human body. With thousands of things happening at once, it can be hard at times to understand everything that's going on. Psychology is a field that aims to not only understand how the brain works, but also how it translates to our behavior. Psych on learning. Psychology can be split into multiple different pillars of study. However, when thinking about how we learn as humans, many of these different pillars can be needed simultaneously to understand what's going on in our brain. Some of these pillars could be biological, cognitive, developmental, social and personality, and mental and physical health. The Great Divide. Like in many fields, there are different ideology in psychology. This is even more so enhanced when looking at psychology because of how difficult it can be to study the brain. Because you aren't just able to take a person's brain out and know exactly what they're thinking, speculation will likely occur. Even with experiments and studies, different conclusions can arise from the same results. The Big Three. While there are vast amounts of learning theories in psychology, there are three main theories that it can be divided into. These three are behaviorist, social development, and constructivist. Behaviorist is based on Skinner's research. Learning is manifested by a desire to change in behavior. It places an emphasis on reward and punishment as motivation for learning. In social development, it's based on Vygots's research. Learning is manifested by the zone of proximal development. It places an emphasis on the fundamental role of social interaction and plays in the development of cognition. In constructivist, based on Piaget's and Bruner's research, learning is manifested by creating meaning and experience it. It places an emphasis on learning having an active role in the learner having an active role in the learning process. One at a time. While all of these theories can be helpful when trying to explain how we learn, the theory that we'll be focusing on today is behaviorism. Behaviorism is a psychological perspective that emphasizes the study of observable and measurable behavior, while disagreeing internal mental processes. It posits that behavior is shaped by environmental stimuli through a process of conditioning, where associations are formed between stimuli and responses. Key figures in behaviorism include Ivan Pavlov, John B. Watson, and B.F. Skinner. This approach rejects the exploration of subjective experiences and focuses on the objective analysis of behavior to understand and predict human actions. History of behaviorism. The roots of behaviorism can be tracked back to the work of Ivan Pavlov, a Russian physiologist who conducted experiments on dogs to study the digestive process. Behaviorism would go on to emerge as a dominant school of thought in psychology during the early 20th century. Pavlov's work would inspire many other psychologists to follow down his path. So, who exactly is this Pavlov guy and why are his dogs so famous? Ivan Pavlov was a Russian physiologist. One day, while conducting experiments on his dog to study the digestive process, he accidentally discovered classical conditioning. Classical conditioning, also known as Pavlovian conditioning, involves associating neutral stimuli with the involuntary response. The classic example involves Pavlov and his experiment with his dogs. As you can see on the right, the dogs were conditioned to salivate when the bell was rung. Eventually, the dogs began to salivate even when there was no food that was going to be presented to the dogs. More conditioning. John B. Watson. Another widely known experiment that demonstrated conditioning was the Little Albert experiment. In this experiment, behaviorist John B. Watson taught a boy to be scared of a rat by frightening the child every single time that the rat was present with loud noise. Albert would become fearful of the rat even when there was no sound. However, this didn't stop here. Albert would also become fearful of other white stimuli as well. For example, teddy bears, coats, or even a furry beard. Classic to operant. Reward versus punishment. Reward versus punishment. Which is better for learning? B.F. Skinner expanded behaviorism by introducing the concept of operant conditioning. He emphasized the role of reinforcement and punishment in shaping behavior. Skinner's work involved studying the effect of consequences on voluntary actions, and he developed the Skinner's box, a controlled environment for studying animal behavior. On the left side, we can see reinforcement, and on the right, punishment. Now, punishment, for reinforcement, you can add something desirable, or you can take something away that is undesirable for the subject. For punishment, we can add something that's unpleasant, or we can take away something that the subject does desire. For example, a doll can be taken away for punishment, or to add punishment, we can make a subject, for example, a child, eat more vegetables. For reinforcement, you can add something valuable or desirable. So, example, you can give a child a cookie. For avoiding something unpleasant, we may use this form of reinforcement to take away the veggies that a child has to eat at dinner time. Pros and cons for each. For reward, positive reinforcement such as rewards can be effective in promoting desired behaviors. Rewards can increase motivation, engagement, and likelihood that the behavior will be repeated. They create a positive association with the learning experience. For the cons, over-reliance on rewards may lead to a dependence on external motivation. When rewards are removed, the behavior might diminish. It's crucial to choose an appropriate and meaningful reward to maintain the effectiveness. For punishment. Punishment is a form of consequence for undesired behaviors. It can be effective in discouraging those behaviors. It provides feedback about what not to do and can lead to the avoidance of negative outcomes. Cons. Punishment has limitations, and it may not always result in long-term behavior change. It can lead to negative emotions, resistance, and may not address the root cause of undesirable behaviors. Harsh or inconsistent punishment can also have detrimental effects. Wrapping things up. Criticism of behaviorism. Behaviorism faced criticism for oversimplifying human behavior by ignoring cognitive processes and subjective experiences. The advent of cognitive psychology in the 1950s and 60s changed behaviorism dominance, leading to its decline and role as the sole paradigm in psychology. Additionally, many of the experiments done at the time would later be ruled dangerous or unethical. In the present, all experiments need to be approved by following specific guidelines. Federal regulation requires that research projects involving human subjects need to be reviewed by the IRB. Final thought. Despite its decline, behaviorism has left a lasting impact on psychology. The principles of conditioning are still used in various therapeutic and educational settings. Additionally, behaviorism paved the way for the development of behavior therapy and applied behavior analysis. Behaviorism played a very crucial role in shaping the field of psychology, especially during the early to mid 20th century, before giving way to more comprehensive approaches that consider both observable behaviors and internal mental processes.